Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlyn
and Tori,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We're super excited to have Marina Martinez-Bateman with us today. Marina uses they, them pronouns and is the founder of New Coyote Consulting, an equity and communications consulting firm in Portland, Oregon. New Coyote is born of many years' experience applying equity and human-centered systems to communication strategy. They built it to be a new kind of company, a place that puts human beings over performative capitalist expectations that only waste time, lead to burnout, and don't make any money for ordinary businesses and nonprofit organizations. Marina is a serial entrepreneur and a grassroots communicator with more than 20 years experience motivating people to take action on behalf of political, cultural, and commercial interests. Their ongoing equity and workers' rights practices have made them a popular speaker, trainer, and peer mentor in the industry. And they are a badass trainer and facilitator who I have known for many years as well. Welcome to the podcast, Marina. We're really excited to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's kick it off with the question that we always ask our guests, which is, what is your Take the Leap story? How the hell did you get involved as an entrepreneur?
Well, my first Take the Leap story was way back in like 1998, 1999. I was broke. I needed money. I started knocking on people's doors and asking them if they needed somebody to help clean their house or do tasks around the house in my neighborhood. And that's how my cleaning company was born, and that I owned that company. I started it as a teenager, like a younger teenager, and I owned that company until I went off to college when I was 18. And that was very much a survival business and very much rooted in what I could do, what I knew how to do, which was clean and do house tasks. And then over the years, I started other businesses, and they were always sort of like a side hustle or something that I didn't take seriously. And then I got pretty well known in certain areas of union communications work and started my own firm helping unions do communications. And then that sort of like branched out to helping with a bunch of different kinds of nonprofits. And that business actually closed in 2016. And so I spent the next 4 years trying to figure out basically what I did wrong. Like, why did my business close? I did everything I was supposed to do. I was very invested in grind culture, hustle culture. I worked there so many, 7 days a week, so many hours a day. Like, this is what I had been taught was how a business is successful, and it's still closed. So I took a gig working with the businesses in the east side of Portland. And Portland's east side, for those of the listeners who aren't from the area, it's very immigrant owned, BIPOC owned. That's where the majority of people of color live. That's where the poverty line is fairly low. It's also where a lot of immigrants move initially when they come here from other places. And I ended up talking to literally thousands of small business owners who had had the business for 20, 30 years, who had got the business from their parents or grandparents. And I learned from them really what actually makes a small business run year after year after year. And it wasn't hustle and grind culture. It was being scrappy. It was being gritty. It was being smart. It was having priorities, and it was also having community and family involved. And so then when I was like, wow, I really don't like being an employee. I'm not made for it. I'm not good at it. And I basically got my second CEO or my second executive director fired in 2 jobs because they were doing something that was not legal. And I was just like, you know what? I don't think that having other people steer my ship is for me. So I took the leap and I went back to consulting and I started my own company, and we opened our doors on January 1st of 2020, super ready, super ready to take the world by storm, having felt like I really knew what I had done wrong previously and knew what to center this time around and what my strategy should be as a business owner. And I thought that the biggest challenge for me was going to be that my health had declined. I have chronic illnesses, I have several of them. And my health had declined since I had owned my previous business. So I just couldn't work the way that I had worked before. And also, I had learned that that kind of working wasn't actually productive. I was exhausting myself, and then I wasn't actually that good at my job. This job that I had worked super hard to be good at, I was no longer good at because I was too tired. So I thought my big problem was that I was going to be dealing with my own illness, and then I was going to have to manage my own time and energy. And then all of those skills that I had employed to make the business a place to work for me as a disabled person suddenly became essential. It wasn't just that I was being kind to myself or that I was making a good strategic decision for me. Once COVID hit, everyone was in basically the same boat. And unlike me, they had not prepared for that. A lot of the sort of like guide rails that I put into New Coyote initially were actually far from being a hindrance to my business success. They were a key to it because while we did have to navigate a lot during COVID and it was not easy, the way we navigated it was designed to be accommodating to illness, accommodating to disability, accommodating to exhaustion and overwhelm. And that I think really made us the kind of company that could survive that kind of turmoil.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Thank you.
And you said, okay, so you said a lot of things that I'm like, want to like focus on. But first of all, your whole story. I feel like I feel like that's just such a common thread for entrepreneurs that like, oh, they started this business in college and then they started this side gig over here and then they have this side gig over here. I do think it really is like a personality trait of entrepreneurs. Like a lot of them have those same types of personality traits of like, I don't really want someone else to dictate what I do. And also I need to make more money. So I'm going to find a way to do that. That's not, taking on 5 more part-time jobs. So I love that. I love that. I just wanted to point that out. But I also just wanted to like point out the whole fact that you had a functioning business that you ran for a long time and then had to close that. And then a few years later, you went ahead and started over. I feel like, and we've talked about this a lot, success is not like a linear path. And there's a lot of ups and downs in between. And there's a lot of things that change throughout your entrepreneurship journey. And so first of all, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like it's, a lot of people are like afraid to fail almost. And so that almost holds them back in a way. And they're like, well, what happens if I close? Or what happens if this doesn't work out? Or what happens? And I feel like that's just such a common fear that people have when it comes to that.
It is. And it's because of the way we teach people about entrepreneurship. We have these very canned, frequently made up stories about these straight white billionaire bros who quote unquote started in a garage, and we leave out the part that their garage is worth $700 million by itself because their parents are veteran bakers or their parents own a jewelry mine or some other stuff like that, right? And we act like these men just like started a business with no other influence, no family, no culture to invest in them, right? Like Bill Gates is one of the best, most popular sort of like started in a garage stories. Meanwhile, his parents were, in the tech industry before the tech industry was a thing. His high school was one of the first high schools in America to have a computer in it. He got to make his own computer information class as a high school student, which that is something that only happens to white people. I've never met a non-white person that ever got to make their own high school class. That's ridiculous. And then and he had this culture of investment and this culture of education and this culture of technology and science education that was around him that supported him. And then we're like, oh, he bootstrapped. He did not.
No.
Uh,
Yeah. There was all this underlying privilege that nobody really talks about.
there's all this
And
underlying privilege.
yeah. And he successfully like started it. But you know what? If he failed, he'd have a fucking parachute. Like you think of like the trapeze artist, right? There's going to be that net that's going to grab him and would have let him do the next thing, But yes, our traditional examples of what successful entrepreneurship is, that is what we see.
It's a very handheld process. These men have their hands held. They have their bills paid. They have their education supplied for them. They have these very supportive environments to become the entrepreneurs that they are. And then we also, there is a whole reason why I had an entire business cleaning people's houses and didn't consider myself an entrepreneur. Right? I just thought I'm a Mexican. That's a thing we do when we need money. That's it. I was not ever encouraged by my culture, by my environment, by the people around me to think of myself as someone who had started a business. It wasn't until later on when I was with other entrepreneurs in entrepreneurial spaces that the fact that I had my own business at such a young age was like, oh yeah, that's how we all are. We're all like that. That's entrepreneurship. I just thought, I am hungry. I need food. I don't have food. Let's go get some money. Let's do some work to get this to happen. Because my parents were not the kind of people that could provide for a child.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing too, is like we have all of this, like anytime for people of color or even women, it's always a side hustle. It's never meant, like it's always supposed to be like that bridge activity that you're doing before you get your quote unquote real job or go work for somebody else. Or, I mean, my family still asks like, oh, you're still doing that? As if I'm going to go, I'm going to go back and work a job somewhere. I'm like, no, it puts food on our table. It supports, me and my husband in doing the things that we want. This is income. It is real. There are people that
it's a real job.
Pay. Yeah, it is my real job.
It is. Yeah, there's so much language. It's little language, but there's so much language around it that I even myself find myself saying too, of oh yeah, blah blah blah, and then I'm like, no, stop that. What are you doing? And
it is a whole job.
Yeah, it's a whole ass job, and this is my livelihood, and I've become a mom halfway through this, and I feel like that's almost made it worse in terms of people's perceptions because I do still from extended family, oh, so are you stay-at-home mom now? No.
I'm a stay-at-home CEO, motherfucker.
Exactly. I work from home, and so does my husband. My husband a job.
I have a work from home husband too. Nobody asks him what the fuck he does all day.
Right? Never.
Everybody assumes that he has a real job. It is infuriating. I remember when I had my other firm, I got married in 2016 also while the firm was closing. It was a big year. There was a lot going on and I was working my ass off to try to keep the doors open, and also I'm getting married at the same time. My husband and his mother planned our entire wedding. They did everything. I was like the groom. I just showed the fuck up and was like, tell me what to do. But I remember hanging out with one of my friends who's an older woman who was a stay-at-home mom. And she goes, tell me about your business. So I'm like, okay. So I started telling her about everything that's going on and everything I'm doing to try to pull up and the cash flow issues and the da-da-da-da-da and the contract and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, she's looking at me. She's got totally blank face. And I said, you didn't want to hear about my business, did you? What did you want to talk about? And she goes, your wedding, your business, your wedding. And I was like, I don't know. I do not know, Sharon. I have no idea what is going on.
I bought an outfit. I'm showing up. I'm saying some shit. I'm signing a piece of paper, and we're good.
True fact, I did not buy my wedding dress until the Thursday before my wedding.
Nice.
I did not intend on wearing a wedding dress. I planned to wear a sweater vest and slacks like my husband was going to wear and did wear. And then we were going to J.C. Penney to buy him some new pants. And I was standing outside the men's room because he had to go to the bathroom. And there is a rack of super sale clearance stuff. There's a pot holder. There's like an old towel, half a slipper. Like, it was bad. And then this big, poofy 3X. I'm fat. 3X poofy, sparkly black tulle dress.
Oh, so it was meant to be. That thing was put in front of you. Yeah.
$13.
Oh my God.
$13. That was how much my wedding dress cost. Oh my God, I was so happy.
That is a find. Oh my God. Right? That was fate right there.
I was like, and I used to tell people when I was younger, I would be like, I'm going to wear black at my wedding day because it might as well be my funeral. Because I was the kind of queer person that was like, me marry a man? Never.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes.
It happens.
It happens to the best of us. It was worth it. It was the sacrifice of my pride.
Yeah. I love that.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Well, kind of transitioning to your story. Now that you've kind of been through this, what advice would you give the younger version of yourself when you first started? What advice would you give them knowing what you know now?
The advice I would give the younger me is not to ascribe sort of like I'm trying, like, moral superiority or intellectual superiority or sort of like correctness to someone or something just because that's how everybody in this culture is doing it, right? Like, we know that we live in a colonizer culture, that we live in a white supremacist culture, that we live in an exploitative capitalist system. And even though I did know that at the time, I've been an activist for a long, long time. I still fell into that trap for too long, looking for systems to legitimize me, looking for big businesses or companies or nonprofits with big names or big organizations that I could work for and attach my name to, and that would give me a form of having a good resume, showing up in the world. I went to college because I thought that because my parents didn't even graduate high school. My mom and dad didn't even get past 10th grade. So going to college was like, oh, I'm gonna get that diploma. That man is gonna hand me that diploma, and I'm gonna feel like a worthwhile person in this world where everything about me has been so dogged on, where everything about my illnesses, my gender identity, the way that people perceive my gender, because most people assume I'm a woman, the way that I grew up, which was in poverty with parents who were addicted to drugs, the way that I look, the way that I talk, I thought that piece of paper was just gonna, like magic Disney princess, transform me into a professional and into someone that other people respected. And that was not the case.
Yeah. I got 2 expensive pieces of paper. I got the undergrad and the master's that I'm still paying off because we are told that is the way that we will be accepted in the world.
Right. Meanwhile, I had read books. I had been to talks. I myself had said it to other people. People of color, indigenous people, Black people especially, have built this country. And here I am, a people of color, descended from indigenous Mesoamericans. And I am not seeing that in myself. I'm not seeing the fact that I'm smart. I'm a producer. I make other people a bunch of money all the time. Like, my early career was full of me making other people enough money to buy a beach house, living in South LA, trying to figure out what's going on. Why come I'm never picked? Like my white boss who went to Yale, like my other white boss who went to, another Ivy League school, like all this stuff. putting myself in situations where the monoculture was dictating value.
Mm-hmm.
And then me being like, how come these people don't respect me? Well, because they've been trained not to respect you. And I don't respect me because I have also been trained not to respect me and people like me.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God.
decolonizing and attempting to re-indigenize my own mindset. So this is the advice I would give myself if I could. Decolonize your mind. Decolonize your mind it is ironically gonna lead to business success.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm never gonna be an IPO. I'm never gonna be one of those super millionaire, billionaire people. But I make enough money to have a living, have a nice life, to have a house, to have a car, to be able to be there for my family when they need me because I don't have to be beholden to some other employer. And that's really all a person needs. And that's all I personally want, right? Like, I don't need, now that I have decolonized, I don't need other people to look at me and feel like they think I'm successful. I don't care what they think.
Mm-hmm.
But for me to feel successful at night when I go to bed, when I wake up in the morning, when I make decisions, I believe in my decision making. I believe in my power to provide for myself, for my family, to do right by my clients and my staff, all of that stuff, to make hard decisions that are sometimes, maybe sometimes they feel bad, maybe sometimes they feel good, but to be that person, there is no amount of other people's money that will ever make it worth it for me to abandon myself now.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, having that agency, right? I feel like is so important, and that's so like that's something that's just so nice when you have your own business. Like we before we hit record, I was talking about like it's very nice to choose when and how you do work. Like sometimes I'm in major flow and I'm going to work for 8 or 9 or 10 hours to get a lot of stuff done. But then I'm going to go like dick around at the library or go enjoy like just being away from my
Mm-hmm.
computer or, practice self care in different ways so that you get that when you are a business owner. And that is
Yeah,
something
and
that most organizations in their work culture, they don't give a fuck. They want you to show up for a 9 to 5. They want, even if you were not busy, got all your work done, they expect and want you there just to say you were there.
yep. Well, and as a manager of people myself now, I don't understand that shit. I have stuff to do. I don't care where you are, man. Just turn in your work on time or tell me why you couldn't so I can get that barrier out of your way. But
Mm.
don't fucking bother me. I am doing my job. You do your job. If you don't do your job, we can have a conversation. But beyond that, you're an adult person. I hired you because you had expertise. Go expertise. Go do the thing. I don't need. Why in the world all my managers were so keen on looking at my fat face all the fucking time? Why do you need me to be parked outside of your office at a desk that I have to drive 45 minutes through polluted traffic to get to? Why? For what?
Nothing.
That was
No
so dumb.
reason. No reason. It's a
You want
power
to be a
thing.
manager?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you want
And
to be a manager and a babysitter.
yeah, absolutely. All right, you already touched on it, but this is our last question before we jump into some of the hot seat questions. It's what's your why? Why do you continue to choose entrepreneurship over working for the man?
I think I'm my why. I'm the best boss. I'm the best and the worst boss I've ever had.
So
I have been
true.
horrible over the years, but we made up. We're in therapy. We're working on it. And now I can say that I finally have a boss that understands my value because it's me.
Mhm.
And the times when I didn't have a boss that understood my value, partially was because I didn't understand my own value back then. But it's also partially because we are in an environment that does not value people like me. And that treats uh people who are from a different neighborhood, from a different country, from a different background, that look a different way or do things differently in our personal lives, that we're somehow, because of that difference, that makes us less than. And
Mhm.
that's not true, at all. But also, it is such a lie that we have people, good, smart, hardworking, intelligent people out here going to school, getting their MBA, reading these business books, going to these seminars and classes that are taught by people who are not like them, being absolutely lied to about their value in the market, about their abilities to convert, about the solutions that they have, about their mindset, about everything. And then inevitably their businesses fail. Not because they're not good, but because they are taking advice from the wrong place.
Yeah.
And for me, it starts with me finding value and finding my value in the world and doing the work that I'm called to do. But the why really ends with all those other people who are coming up behind me, who now, because I'm here, don't have to listen to that monoculture trash that says that they are only as good as they can push their physical body.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. We can innovate. We don't have to do 10, 12 hours of work a day if we don't want to. We certainly can. But we can be our authentic, true, clear selves, and that is regardless of ability and energy and proclivity and identity and history. And in fact, those things go into making us good at this and be successful. And in fact, the history of this country is the history of exploitation of people who are like us, who are the success of the country. And then we get exploited from, stolen from, etc., by people who actually don't know what they're doing and wouldn't know how to run a real business if Henry Ford himself rose from the grave and babysat them every single day, right? Looking at some of the people that are in charge of our country right now, these dudes don't know how to do shit.
No.
No.
No, not definitely not based on like all the contracts that they canceled that literally have clauses that say you still got to pay them out, bitches. So cool, we don't got to do work and we're gonna still get paid. Like,
this is a whole.
Sorry. I was just gonna say I saw something online that was like the one thing this administration is doing is helping me a lot with my imposter syndrome.
It really, because what we are seeing in action, because they're being amplified on the national stage, we're seeing that the only way these dudes have ever gotten wealth is either from their dads or from the people they stole it from.
Oh, totally. Yes.
They're thieves.
Very
There's a bunch of other people that are actually making the money.
Yeah.
And they don't look like them. They look like us.
Yeah. So weaponized incompetence, honestly. It really is a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because they'll just get bailed out, as they always do.
Yep.
Ugh. Well, that was really powerful. And I really want to write down the first thing you said, which was, I am my why. I'm gonna write that down and just put it somewhere because that was incredible. I would like to cut out that entire thing that you said and just put it on repeat because
Thank you.
I think that's a really important message for a lot of us to hear.
Thank you. And it's really important now more than ever because when we have this overreach from the administration of our country, when we have this move towards fascism in our country, we are responsible for figuring out how to resource ourselves, our families, our communities, and part of that is entrepreneurship, and part of that is just getting out there and not doing things the way they expect us to do.
Yeah. Especially with all the people who thought they were like truly untouchable, right now it's just like nobody is. All of
There's
us.
A lot of people who were never taught how to be scrappy. And that was a part of their privilege, and now it is a part of their deficit. Because they don't know how to handle it when stuff happens to them.
Yeah, resilience. I mean, it's a good and dirty word because the reason you got to go that is that you dealt with some shit, but it's going to keep you prepared to continue to deal with it later.
Yeah. I have a lot of resentment over the fact that I, at this big age, have to continue to fight bullies.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I know how.
It's true. That's very true.
Well, are we ready for the hot seat questions? Which they're not really that crazy. They're not that hot. They're not you don't have to answer them in 5 seconds or anything. We have like some fun questions. Well, somewhat fun questions that we like to ask. So my first question, I always ask everybody this one to kick it off, is what is the best and or worst advice you've received in your career?
Oh, okay. The worst advice I ever received. I did receive some good advice from this guy. He was an older gentleman who had a business for a long time. Actually, I got the best and worst advice from him. He's a star. But he told me, he said, if you're gonna keep talking like that, nobody's gonna buy anything from you.
Not true. Never true.
Not true.
Yeah.
Not true. Not true. In fact, when I speak like my normal speaking voice, people are like, "Oh, you seem authentic." When I try to act like a white person and speak in some kind of voice that I learned in college, people are like, "I don't know. I just don't really trust them." So that was very wrong. The other thing that he told me, and I don't know, maybe I just like this because it's a little bit salacious, but he was like, "You and your business are basically in a marriage. And I want you to think of yourself, you and your business laying together in a bed. And she's got your balls in her hand. And if you fuck up, you're going to know it because you're going to feel it because she's going to grab those fuckers harder. And so when you and your business move together, it's harmony. It's beautiful. When you fuck it up, though, she'll tell you. She'll let you know. And I've never forgotten that. I've always felt like me and my business are in harmony together. We're partners."
I like it. I mean, it's very visual.
Mm-hmm. It's very visual. I also don't necessarily know exactly what it means, but I can feel it when I have done poorly by the business. I know it, and that I remember it. It's like, yeah, she's
got the balls.
She's got my balls in her hand, and she's gonna let me know when I don't do right by her.
That's incredible. It sounds like something an older man would say too. Like I just feel like I can visualize him as well.
Yeah, he was an old Navy guy. He used to be in the Navy, and he would also tell me really raunchy stories about the Navy. He was great.
I know. My next question would be like, so how hard did she squeeze, and what the fuck did you do to cause that?
Right?
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny.
That's incredible.
All right. Pivoting slightly from that. So years ago, I don't even know when this was. Maybe it was in 2020. Maybe it was in 2021. I don't even know if I had a business yet. But I took your toxic productivity workshop. And I don't know if you're still doing those, but what advice do you have for entrepreneurs to avoid being stuck in that toxic productivity spiral that you spoke about was your, first business experience?
Yeah. So my first business, the reason she died is because of toxic productivity. I worked myself into a hole I couldn't get out of, and as a result, the business failed, and I had to fire everybody that worked there, which is one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. And then I had to figure out what the fuck I did wrong because I was like, I'm never doing that again. And what I did wrong was I mistook the hours that I spent on the business for the amount of productivity that I was creating. I did the same thing that had been done to me at workplaces that were toxic. I assumed that if 4 hours of my work is getting shit done, then 8 hours of my work is getting twice as much shit done, and 16 hours of my work is getting 4 times as much shit done, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lie. That's not true. I also didn't understand what I brought to the business that made me valuable. I thought that the things that made me valuable were my ability to convert, my quick turnaround times, my, business processes that were fairly good at the time. They're better now. I didn't understand that my perception, my experience, myself, my ability to innovate and make innovative leaps for clients, my ability to get to the real core of the issue, that was the true value I was bringing to the space. So I was tying, if I got somebody 3,000 Twitter followers, that was a value proposition to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what I do, right? I might do that, but what I really do is figure out the pain point for the client and solve it. And whatever the pain point is, I need to have my faculties about me to discover what it is. And then in order to solve it, I also need to have my faculties about me to discover what it is. I was like a virtuoso violin player who left my violin in the rain. I was neglecting the things that made me special because I thought that just sheer sweat and grit and taking damage was what I was able, just because I'm good at, pushing through. That doesn't mean that that's where my value is. And I mistook that for value because other people saw me, saw that I had a lot of energy, saw that I could work real hard, saw that I could get things done, saw that I could pull rabbits out of hats. And that's what they told me my value was, and they were wrong. And so for the entrepreneur that's stuck in toxic productivity, what I need you to do is, first of all, close the computer. Just leave whatever room the computer is in. Or if you can't leave the room, just turn your back on it. Put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, take a big, deep breath, and tell yourself, one, you are valuable because you are you. Say it with me. I am valuable because I am me. And when you tell yourself that, your body is going to start to tell you what that means. Is going to start to help inform you that the things that show up for you, your compassion, your intelligence, your intuitiveness, your scrappiness, your solution making, your empathy, those are the things that you bring to the table. And in order to preserve those skills, you have to first practice them on yourself. You can't have no empathy for yourself, putting your body through hell, working every day at a desk that doesn't suit you, or in a space that doesn't suit you, or with clients that aren't supposed to be yours, and then expect for you to perform. You can't do that. You have to be your first client and be the instrument that you take meticulous care of. Or you could be the strongest person on the planet.
Yeah.
There is going to be a point where that strength fails.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else will carry?
Yeah.
I feel like I need to just hire you to give me a talk every I feel like you literally were like, what do you need to hear today? Okay, this is it.
Well, the thing is, most of us need to hear this because we've been through the same indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
We've been through the same hell. And we've been taught that the problems that we have with this abusive system are personal problems, and that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, I needed that today. Thank you.
Anytime.
Oh my goodness. Well, going in a little bit of a different direction here. I love hearing the story behind people's business names. And so I want to know, your business name is New Coyote Consulting. So tell us how you came up with that.
Yeah, so my big marketing firm that closed was called Marina Martinez Consulting, which was a terrible idea. That's the second piece of advice I would give anyone starting their own business. Do not name it after yourself. Because when people send rejections to Marina Martinez Consulting, they send it to Marina Martinez. I made the logo of my old business, my fucking face. So I was like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I want an avatar. I want like an animal or something that symbolizes me. And I was like, if I was an animal, I was actually at the People's Nonprofit Accelerator Conference, the digital one we had during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Ashton, I don't know if it was your question, but I think you were there. The question was, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? And I said a fox. Because foxes live in cities. They also live in the country. They're very adaptable. And then I was like, there's no foxes in Mexico. What the fuck? Why am I picking a Eurocentric ass animal? I know there's foxes in the Americas, but like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Mm-hmm.
let's pick that. So I was like, well, what is the sort of like adaptable canid of the Americas? And it's a coyote. And I also, as a Mexican, grew up, hearing stories about Huehuecoyotl, the very old coyote who was an Aztec god. And Huehuecoyotl, I started to dig into more stories because I heard stories about him. He would like teach humans about morality with like humor and like tricking them and stuff. And he was also very shapeshifty. So he could become a woman, he could be a man, he could be a coyote, he could be a horse, whatever he needed to be for the story. And I learned that in some myths, Huehuecoyotl actually helped the Earth Mother make humanity and make the world.
Nice.
And she offered to have him rule with her by her side. And he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? We just made the most fun sandbox and filled it with fun little people, fun little dudes. I'm not going to sit on top of a mountain with your ass. I'm going down there. I'm going to have fun." And I feel like I always teach with narrative. That's a big part of what I bring to the table for sort of like, and it helps people remember stuff. It helps them retain information and apply it to different situations. And so that's Huehuecoyotl. He's a storyteller. He's also he loves humanity. He wants us to succeed. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be good. But he also doesn't hesitate to trick us a little to get us to that space. And it's always in good humor. And I was like, oh, I want to be very old coyote consulting. But then I was teaching classes like toxic productivity and stuff, and people were saying, this is so new. This is such a new approach to everything. And I was thinking, it's actually a very old approach. This is a very old way to approach commerce and approach community and approach work. But in this context where we've been taught and encouraged to forget wherever we came from, this is what new. This is a new way of being. This is a new coyote. And so that's how the name New Coyote came to be.
I love that.
That's such a cool story. I had no idea. I also love your little mascot, like the little
Isn't he
howling
so
coyote.
cute?
He's so cute.
So my friend Jess works for Leica and is a professional illustrator, and I got him to design the coyote because I wanted it to be adorable.
It is very
And
adorable.
brief, 100% on point.
It's incredible. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And I'm always going to remember that story now.
Yeah, same.
All right. Pivoting from that, we recently spoke to Nell Taylor, who you know, about what's happening with nonprofits and social justice organizations right now with the federal government choosing to remove funding and trying to kill DEIJ. How is that impacting your work? And then what do you recommend for folks who are worried or scared to keep doing this work right now, or are doing some hard pivots in, coming up with what happens now? Because I've heard, unfortunately, like a number of folks in the diversity, equity, inclusion consulting space are closing shop or getting real job jobs, and I think also part of this is just like we live in a fucking capitalist system. As much as we want to be anti-capitalist, like folks got to live and eat. So sorry, that was a lot, but I know you have thoughts on this. So.
Oh, do I? I have so many thoughts. I mean, I have not always, as soon as I learned that this was the framework for nonprofit administration, which I actually worked in nonprofits and with nonprofits for probably 10 years before I understood our true history of being very much like the government should do 90% of the shit that nonprofits do. Yeah. And we pay our fucking taxes and they don't do shit all. And that really started when Reagan shut a bunch of nonprofits down and stopped a bunch of government services and social safety nets and things in the 80s. And it's just kind of been a downhill spiral since then, where we have these funds that are, a lot of them, populated with monies from families who made their wealth from the slave trade and then continue to maintain their wealth by not paying fucking taxes. And then the fund only pays out 3 to 5% per year of the monies that they have that they could give to nonprofits. It's like we are in a trapped position as nonprofit administrators where we get this money, some of it a little trickle from the government, some of it a little trickle from this, wealthy family or this wealthy family or this wealthy family, and then a little trickle from our community, whatever they can turn out of their pockets.
Oh, pausing right there. We get that trickle of money from private foundations by writing a multi-page fucking grant application and then figuring out how we're going to track all that information so that we can say, please, Daddy, give me money again. And have them say, no, our priorities have changed this year. We don't want to support that anymore. Sorry. Soapbox.
Yes, no.
But it's annoying. Yeah.
I was just talking to someone who got money from a foundation. The foundation made them do a bunch of labor to start a whole new program just for them. And then after the first year, they forgot about it and didn't fund it again fully. That happens all the time. That story is not unique. There's 20, 40, 50 nonprofits I could throw a stone at from where I am sitting right now that have that experience this year.
It's the nonprofit Hunger Games, honestly. It
is.
Yeah.
And it's like these fuckers stole all this money from laborers, got the money initially from shit like the slave trade, and are now trying to get us to be accountable to them for the money they stole in the first place, from the money that they are effectively legally hiding from the federal government by putting in a fund so they don't have to pay taxes on it. Y'all kidding me right now with that shit. So that being said, this is about solutions. The solutions that I see is that while this is going to be painful and it is going to harm people, which is the point, the administration wants people harmed. And I certainly don't wish that this had happened. But now that we see this crumbling, I think a lot of us are going to start to understand that all of the hours that we spend tracking and reporting and begging for support from these people who should have been supporting us from the get-go with no strings attached, all of that energy has been wasted. All of the causes that we care about, that we spend our lives working for, have been neglected in service of us begging rich people for the money they stole from our ancestors. And now that we don't have to spend all our time oriented towards wealth, begging for that money, tracking that money dollar by dollar, asking inane questions, dealing with ridiculous requirements, we can actually go feed people. And the thing is, I've never met a rich person who ever fed a whole family with their garden. Maybe Martha Stewart. I did see her TV show and she did that once. But like, as a Latino, there's people everywhere feeding whole families from their garden. Yeah. We don't need money from wealthy people to feed people. We have entire populations of people who know how to feed people. That's not a problem. We don't need rich people to drive a truck for us. We don't need rich people to figure out who needs shelter, who needs medicine, who needs none of this shit. Within our communities, if somebody took the earth and shook it and all the rich people fell off tomorrow, nothing would change, except maybe it would get better. There's the skills that we need, the resources that we need. The only thing we need to do is keep them in our communities, try to stop these rich people from stealing it from us in the first place, and then give it back to our communities instead of giving it to employers, instead of giving it to the government, instead of giving it to the people that aren't going to give it back to us, that were never considering us, that are even now creating programs to harm us.
Yeah.
Like, there is a reason that the administration is going after some of the poorest, most vulnerable people, and it's because we have the skills to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So understanding that we didn't want this shift, it's not going to be great at first, but potentially we have a chance to make a real break with the way things have been going, and get away from that oppressive boot that has been, they have their boot on our necks, and then every once in a while they'll throw a couple quarters on our face to be like, see, I'm taking care of you. You're not. You're exploiting me. You can't exploit my hungry people because they don't work for you, but you can by keeping them just hungry enough that you're going to be able to, because like the rich are rich because the poor are poor.
Mm-hmm.
They make a bunch of money off of medicine. They make a bunch of money off of hospital debt. They make a bunch of money off of claptrap shitty apartments that they don't maintain. Like all of these things are lining the pockets of the wealthy. And that's why they don't give us enough money to actually eradicate poverty.
Yeah.
But we have an opportunity to make lasting, long-term, permanent changes to a system that was set up so that we would never change it. And it's because these guys are in charge that actually don't know how any of this works. They don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to run a country. They don't know how to run a goddamn war chat. Right? They're texting people war plans.
I mean, it was like we said, hold my beer. Let's see what happens. Like,
Right?
seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
So they don't understand the way that the system that benefits them even works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they think they're doing us a harm by unfunding us, which initially it will be very harmful, and it has been very harmful. But long term, we're the problem solvers, not them.
That's true. We should figure out other ways. Yeah.
We're going to solve the problem of this lack of funding, just like we solved the problem of the lack of funding before during COVID, and just like we solved the problem of the lack of funding before during the recession, and just like we solved the problem of the lack of funding in the 90s and the 80s. Like, they think that they're harming us by taking money away from us because if they lost their money, they'd have nothing.
Right.
But we've been losing money. This is not even the 5th time contributions have gone down significantly.
Yeah. Well, it's because donor advised funds are evil and people are putting them there instead.
Yep. Yeah. And what I would say to a nonprofit worker is you got to take care of yourself. So if that is going to get a JOB, handle it. If that is saying, look, I can only work here 20 hours a week because y'all don't pay me enough to work here more than that, do it. And at the same time, what we need is a radical shift away from looking at foundations and governments and towards our communities.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's also looking around for who's doing mutual aid in our service populations, because those are the people who know how to do this with zero budget. And we may have lost a bunch of money, but we don't have zero budget.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to the people who are doing the mutual aid, we're going to follow their lead because they don't do shit with no budget. And just because we have a building or we have a title or we used to make a certain amount of money or used to raise a certain amount of money, that doesn't mean anything now. The only currency in nonprofit and cause-based work going forward from here is going to be impact. Do you feed the people? Do you give them medicine? Do you take care of their pets? Do you provide them mental health? That's going to be the currency. And mutual aid organizations are the richest of us. So we really have to look to what they're doing and come in as supporters of that work and say, what do you need? Because we have a van, we have a house, we have, whatever's left of this grant that we're not going to get ever again. So fuck it. Who cares what the tracking says? We have, right, whatever we have to be showing up for the people who are really impacting the communities on the ground and the ones that have the most need and giving what we have to them and following their lead. Which is not, if we're used to drawing even a measly salary from our nonprofit, it's not a hopeful statement. It's not a statement, oh, you're going to be secure, you're okay, don't worry. No. But if money was the only thing that was driving us to do work, we wouldn't be working in this environment. We wouldn't be at cause-based organizations. We wouldn't be at nonprofits. And so just to understand that, we got to take care of ourselves. So if you do need that salary, which most of us do, we got to figure out a way to get it somewhere else. Yeah. We got to figure a way to protect our families. We got to figure a way to lower our costs as people and as organizations, and try the best to do right by the people who need it the most, which is our service populations, and it's also our staff. Frequently, especially if you're on the ground working, your staff came from your service population.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't kick them right back there. You got to help them too. But every single organization is going to have a wildly different way to resolve this new loss. But as long as we center our service populations and our people who are going to experience the most harm, and we don't pay even lip service to those organizations that are still very much rooted in white supremacy and colonizer mindset,
Yeah.
we will be okay ultimately. But we can't.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, we can't go to a poison well.
Yeah.
For water.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we have said in many different contexts on this podcast. Community is the only way that we can see through this. And it is by being good stewards of the people that are most impacted, the people who are most likely to be harmed, to help your neighbor, to help the people around you, to not look at ultimately like our government as the savior and to really think in that kind of grassroots mentality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it was like you were kind of saying earlier, the government wants, and people in that position of power want us to continue to be very individualistic and not go out and find other ways of doing things and connecting and partnering with other people. They want us to keep that going because that is what keeps them in power. That's what keeps them making money. Whereas if, like you said, if we come together as a community, that's how we're going to be able to make the difference. That's how we're going to figure out ways to problem solve and collaborate with people who have different skill sets than us. And so I feel like, even just applying that to business, Ashlyn and I have talked about this a lot where, we were taught that competition is, like you should always be wary of your competitor and, kind of keep trade secrets to yourself. And I'm just like, we have no secrets, and Ashlyn and I share things all the time. And all of the people in my network, we share things all the time because we want to help each other. Even if it's somebody who does pretty much the exact same thing as I do, there's plenty of work for us to go around, and I want them to be successful too. And
Mm-hmm.
start to just shift that mindset and apply it to every area of life. That's where we're going to be able to make a difference, because there's not a lot we can control up here. So what we do down here. And so that, yeah, you said that really beautifully. And I think it's been rough a couple months, and I have a feeling this is not even the beginning. So I think the only thing we can do is, instead of just losing hope and just keeping our heads down, is to, like you said, connect with our community.
Yep. And and the thing is, like, there's always going to be problems. When you think of yourself as a marketer, maybe nobody needs marketing right now, but when you think of yourself as a problem solver and you solve a specific type of problem, there's going to be work. There's going to be work forever. There's so much work in the world that we don't need to compete at all. I mean, the truth is, New Coyote is such a small firm that our max capacity at a time is 10 clients. I know there's more than 10 organizations that need help.
Yeah.
In order to actually serve the population that needs serving, we need thousands of people doing this work. So we're going to have to, and also we have a situation where people are leaving the industry for very good, very, very important reasons. Like if you are a nonprofit worker right now and you are like, I can't stay here, please don't.
Yeah.
It's not just your body that we need in the movement. It is your mind. It is your support. It is your goodwill. It is your perception. It is your personal, emotional, and financial growth. So if going and working for somebody else, or going back to corporate, or going into corporate for the first time ever, or just fucking leaving and sitting at home with your cat is what you need. That's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Even now at this crisis point, in fact, especially now at this crisis point, we need people who are whole, who are
Yeah.
taken care of, to show up for this because it is a huge, huge, devastating loss.
Yeah. And burnt out people cannot do the work. It's just not possible. It's just not possible.
Really well said. Yeah. Well, completely pivoting on my last, completely different road here on my last question. We're gonna end this on a fun question. What is on repeat on your playlist right now? Spotify, music. What's something that you are listening to over and over again?
Oh, this is embarrassing.
Oh, we love embarrassing answers.
Okay, you guys know a little band called Hosier?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about him right now. I just need his voice in my ears.
Mm-hmm.
It's
like a drug. It's very addicting. Like it makes you feel things.
Right. I listened to one song. I went to the gym the other day. I was there for like an hour. I had one song on repeat. I was crying, doing yoga in a corner at the gym. I don't know what was, but it was pushing the poison out. I was just like, this man, I love him.
Nice.
That's an amazing answer. I don't think that's embarrassing.
No.
I like it.
I feel like he's definitely like sad bastard music.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't think of the new song, but I know what it is that you probably are talking about. But I can just hear "Take Me to Church," which is like the original like famous song that he came out with. And yeah, I listened to that like a lot when it first came in.
Yep, that is actually the album that I'm listening to on repeat. I'm not listening to his new stuff. I'm listening to like
the original.
I'm not even modern with my sad bastard music. I am like throwback. Sad bastard music.
Yeah, it is sad boy summer music for sure.
It is.
I love that sad boy summer. Oh my gosh, I want to make a playlist that's called sad boy summer.
Oh yeah,
make a pretty cloudy day of just like sitting and staring out the window and contemplating life, just like with him in the back. Like I just love that.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Awesome.
That was great.
Thank you.
Well, Marina, we've come to the end of our questions. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience, like how they can work with you, how they can keep in touch with you, or anything that we didn't cover that you're like, I really want this information out there?
Yeah, so I actually recently, because of the whole crisis and everything, cut my coaching rates in half. So my coaching rates are now 50% of what they were. And certain impact-based nonprofits with lower budgets can get even more, up to 50% off the current rate from there. So check out newcoyote.com to learn more about how to do coaching with me. This coming summer, it's currently March 2025. In June, July 2025, my summer cohort of the management course, Decolonizing Management, is going to open. I'm in the middle of teaching the spring cohort right now, and it is just fire. It's amazing. Everybody is so just on it. Like I hate what's happening in the world, but I love how much passion everyone is bringing to the solutions, and that's a great place to be in. And then, of course, you can sign up for my newsletter at newcoyote.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Marina Martinez-Bateman. I post videos. I post longer form videos. I talk shit and and do other things on there all the time.
Okay, now I have to make you say on camera what decolonizing management is all about.
Oh, right. Decolonizing Management is a 12-week course. The classes are 2 hours each. It covers how to manage people and organizations, nonprofits and small businesses included, how to manage people and organizations from an anti-capitalist point of view. So We don't have to perpetuate white supremacy on our management. We don't have to create structures that are exacerbating our exploitation and our oppression. We can, within the bounds of what is legal and what is available to us, create new structures for our own organizations and our own departments and our own staff that are more liberatory and that will continue to advance the cause of justice.
That's really powerful. That's really cool. And so you're doing another one in the summer.
Yep, I do it twice a year. So I do a spring one and I do a summer one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we will make sure that all of those links are available to folks who are listening. But yeah, thank you, Marina, for coming on. Thank you for answering our questions. We frequently have people back, and I have a feeling we will have you back to shoot the shit about other topics, especially.
I would love to come back.
Yeah, as time goes on. But as always, listeners, if you have a guest recommendation, or if you have questions or want to connect with our guests, you can always send us a DM on Instagram or email us at aloha@taketheleap-today.com. And until next time, we will see you back here on the pod. Bye for
Thanks,
now.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.